So, hello there, and welcome back to another Night of the Movies video. I'm, of course, Spike Knight, and in these videos, I love talking all things, movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's video, I am talking all about Shrinking, the sitcom that is currently on, which people are calling one of the best sitcoms ever made, and whether I really think that is the case. So, let's get into it, shall we? Shrinking. So, Shrinking began all the way back in 2023. It began 3 years ago now, and this show was co-created by Bill Lawrence, who was the brains behind Scrubs, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't seen that show, but I know it's loved by a lot of people. And he was also one of the people behind the hit Apple TV Plus comedy Ted Lasso, which I absolutely love. I do not care about football in the slightest, but I think Ted Lasso is brilliant. And this show, Shrinking, was also co-created by Jason Segel, who many people might know from the Muppet movie, the last Muppet movie from 2011. He was also, what's his name? It's Marshall from How I Met Your Mother, my favourite character in that show. Yes, he co-created the series, and he stars in the lead role. Plus, this series was also co-created by Brett Goldstein, who many people might know as Roy Kent from Ted Lasso, and he's been in quite a few other things as well. He's been popping up in quite a lot over the past couple of years. So yes, Shrinking was co-created by Bill Lawrence, Jason Segel, and Brett Goldstein. And the show follows Jason Segel's character, who I forget the name off the top of my head right now. It follows his character as he struggles with life after his wife accidentally died. And in season 1, we follow Jason Segel's character as he grappled with, some very tough situations in his life after his wife died, and we also get to see him reconnect with the one closest to him. We get to see him reconnect with his estranged daughter, and we get to see him connect with new characters in his life as well, such as Harrison Ford's character, who is somebody who worked in the same building as him, who's somebody who's also a therapist, because one thing I haven't said yet is Jason Segel's character is a therapist. He's a shrink in the first series, hence the name of the show, as is Harrison Ford's character. And that was one of the main reasons I wanted to watch this show in the first place, all because of Harrison Ford. I haven't really seen Harrison Ford do that much comedy in the past. He has comedic bits in Indiana Jones, and I love him as Indiana Jones, by the way. That's some of my favourite films, particularly Last Crusade, which is my favourite movie of all time. I love him as Indiana Jones, but he's not always doing comedy in those movies, and he's funny in Working Girl as well, but again, it's not an overly comedic role. I've seen him do comedy in other movies in the past, but it's usually not in comedy movies, you know what I mean? He's usually just doing bits of comedy here and there. So when I heard he was doing a comedy TV show with Jason Segel, who I best know from How I Met Your Mother and the Muppet movie from 2011, I was like, oh really, that's an interesting combo. I want to see how that plays out. And I remember watching that first season of Shrinking all the way back in 2023, which doesn't feel like that long ago now, but really does when you think about it. Yeah, I remember watching that first season of Shrinking all the way back in 2023, and actually really getting along with this show, really liking the characters and liking the story being told and liking the messages being told at the end of each episode as well, because the first season had this dark edge about it. It was about a character who was trying to live his life after his wife, the person who he thought was going to be the love of his life, with him until the end of days. This person who he thought would always be there for him ends up accidentally dying. There was this really interesting story element to season 1, which was focused on very well, and again, season 1 had this dark edge to it and had some very good messages about grief and about trying to live your life after you've lost the person who is closest to you. And every single moment that Jason Segel and Harrison Ford were on screen together in season 1, it was golden. Honestly, I would be laughing my head off, or I would be almost on the verge of tears. I thought Shrinking season 1, while not perfect, and it did feel a little too American in place, because it is an American sitcom, but I did think that season 1 of Shrinking was very good. And then season 2 came along about a year or so later, And I didn't love season 2. I didn't like it nearly as much as I enjoyed season 1. It felt like it was relying a bit too much on rude humour. And I don't mind rude humour. I don't mind that at all. But I don't like when they rely on it too much because it's kind of cheap comedy, particularly the way they were dealing with it in season 2. One of my issues with season 2 as well was the storyline with Brett Goldstein. Like, Brett Goldstein is a co-creator on the show, and I've loved Brett Goldstein ever since I saw him in Ted Lasso, in which he was Roy Kent, one of the best characters in that show. And in season 2, he plays quite an important character. He plays a person who accidentally killed Jason Segel's wife. So there's interesting stuff there. But what they do with him in season 2, I didn't feel was believable. I didn't buy into it. He basically, spoiler here in case you haven't seen the show and you're planning to and you don't want to know what happens. In season 2, Brett Goldstein's character, who accidentally killed Jason Segel's character's wife, becomes friends with Jason Segel's character. He also becomes friends with Jason Segel's character's daughter, who lost her mother because of Brett Goldstein, if you're following me. Yeah, it didn't really sit right with me that I didn't buy into it, and I didn't really understand why Brett Goldstein. Well, I understand why he was a big part of the show. I understood that, but I didn't understand why they were making him make friends with our main characters. Our core group of characters in this show, and it didn't work for me. It felt like Brett Goldstein, who I've loved ever since Ted Lasso. It felt like he felt like he wanted a role in the show because he was a co-creator on the show, and I think he's written quite a few episodes. So yeah, I didn't love season 2, and also season 2 ended with an episode. I think it was a Thanksgiving episode where like every single character in the series was in the same room, and I was like, oh my god, this is so American and this is so mushy, and they're just it's really getting on my nerves. I felt that the end of season 2 was very cringy. But I was holding out hope for season 3. I was like, if they learn from their mistakes from season 2, season 3 could be cracking. So, about a couple of weeks ago now, it will be like 8 or 7 weeks ago now. I can't remember how many episodes are in Shrinking season 3, but it comes out weekly. So let's say about 8 weeks ago now, I sat down to watch season 3, episode 1 of Shrinking. And I really liked it. I was surprised by how much I really liked episode 1 of this season, of the latest season. It isn't the last season, by the way. Apparently season 4 is coming. But anyway, I remember watching season 3, episode 1 and going, wow! It really feels like they, back on the rails. It feels like the show has found its footing again. Not to say season 2 was bad, but it wasn't as good as season 1. And I felt that with the first episode of season 3, we were off to a very good start. Couple of nitpicks in that episode, but overall that first episode was about an hour long. The first episode of this third season was about an hour long, and it was funny, it was heartwarming, and it was very enjoyable to watch. But then the rest of the season came out, and the more this later season, the more the third season of Shrinking progressed, the more I realised that there were a lot of problems with this show, and I don't quite get the love it gets. Like, the amount of people, right, that I've heard on the internet call Shrinking one of the best TV shows on TV right now, one of the best comedies on TV right now, or the best comedy on TV right now, or the best TV show on TV right now. Heck, I even saw one person when I was on social media this morning call Shrinking the best TV show they've ever seen, and the amount of times I'm hearing that, whether it's when I'm listening to a podcast, whether it's when I'm just reading some news article, whether it's just when I'm scrolling through my phone, the amount of times that I see somebody call Shrinking one of the best comedies I've ever seen, I'm like, are we watching a different show? And particularly they say it in relation to season 3. They say, oh, season 3 of Shrinking just gets it right. And I'm like, does it really? Does it get it all right? Because although there is merit to season 3 of Shrinking, I'm not saying there isn't, it almost feels like it's forgotten what show it started off as. And it does not, to me anyway, and it's just me. If you love season 3 of Shrinking, that's great. I don't want to take that away from you. I'm not one of those reviewers. I don't want to be known as one of those YouTubers who try and get somebody else to dislike something just because I do. Not at all. If you love it, that's great. I'm just moaning because, well, it's my channel, so why not? Whenever I think about Shrinking Season 3. Whenever I watch an episode, I notice there's more and more problems with it. And, like I said, I think the show has kind of forgotten what it set out to be. And it's too soft now. It's too mushy. And it's too American. That dark edge in the first season almost feels forgotten about. For the most part, and yet there were dark elements in Season 3, but they're not touched on enough, not, again, going into spoilers here, in case you haven't seen the show, so spoiler for Shrinking, Harrison Ford's character has Parkinson's, and there were some dark things that are touched on in relation to that in Season 3 of Shrinking, but they're not delved into enough. At the end of episode 1, he starts having hallucinations. He starts seeing people in the same room as him who aren't actually there. I'm thinking, oh great, this is going to really go into the dark stuff in the season, and this is going to be like the heartbreaking part of the season. That whole stuff with the hallucinations, though, it's pretty much forgotten about by the time they get to like episode 3 or episode 4 in the season, And they keep calling Harrison Ford's hallucinations in this season of Shrinking Halulus as well, which is really annoying, and I don't think quite works as well as the writers thought it worked, And so, yeah, it feels like it's forgotten its dark edge. And all of these supporting characters, who were great as supporting characters in season 1, are now main characters. There are far too many characters in the season. Honestly, I was watching the last episode yesterday, and I liked the last episode. I thought it was probably the second best episode of Shrinking Season 3, right behind the first episode, which I still thought was the best episode of the season. But I was watching that last episode, and I was like, okay, there are way too many characters here in one room, talking all at once, and I'm surprised by how little I care about the other characters that aren't our main core group characters from the first season, And it almost feels like when you get to Shrinking Season 3, that Harrison Ford, who was such a huge part of the first 2 seasons, is more of a guest star. He was in Season 3 Episode 1 quite a lot, which is one of the reasons I loved Season 3 Episode 1. But the rest of the season is like, they kind of get Harrison Ford in when they can. And when they can, it's not that often. And that's one of the draws for me with this show, is the fact that Harrison Ford is in it. You get Indiana Jones, Han Solo himself to be in this show. Use him a lot more. And they did in season 1 and 2. And in this season, he feels more like a guest star whenever he pops up. He feels like a reoccurring guest star, which I know isn't the case, but you know what I mean. When he's in this season, I'm like, oh great, he's back on screen, but then he's only really on screen for 2 minutes, and then we don't really get to see him again until the end of the episode. He's not in it nearly enough, and instead we get all these characters who were great as supporting characters in season 1, now are main characters in season 3, and are not nearly as interesting because they are main characters. Like, I don't really understand what the main plot line of this third season of Shrinking is. In season 1, you understood what the main overall storyline was. Yes, there were, subplots going throughout the season as well, but the whole sort of point of season 1 of Shrinking was that Jason Segel's character was trying to get himself back on his feet in his work life and in his personal life. He was reconnecting with those closest to him, and you got that when you watched season 1. And season 2 had a overall story as well, with, the whole story of Brett Goldstein's character in that season, which I didn't love, but at least it had an overall story, you know what I mean? But this season doesn't. What is this season about? What is season 3 of Shrinking about? I don't know. Is it about the fact that Harrison Ford's character is going to retire and he might be moving somewhere else? Is it about Gabby dealing with something dark in her life, a death that happened close to her that is affecting her but isn't really affecting her too much because she still seems pretty happy? Is it about Jason Segel's character learning to live by himself and learning to love again? Is it about Jason Segel's character's daughter going off to college, which keeps getting postponed again and again and again? Is it about the fact that there's going to be 2 characters now trying to raise a baby, who've just adopted a baby and are trying to raise that baby? Is it about this other thing with Jason Segel's character's neighbour and the fact that there's a character who's just had a heart attack but is recovering. Is it about any of these things? Because there's so much. There's too many storylines in this third season. There's too many storylines, and you don't have one main storyline which really keeps you interested in the overall narrative of season 3. There's just a lot of storylines, and because there are a lot of storylines that the show keeps touching on but not really exploring, you don't care about the characters enough. You don't care enough to really get invested into these storylines anymore. At least I don't, because there's so many storylines going on. So I'm just waiting to see Jason Segel and Harrison Ford pop up on screen, and that's when the show still really works for me. When Jason Segel and Harrison Ford are on screen together, I'm like, yes, this is dynamite. To do this more, focus on this more, but they're not on screen nearly enough in this season. It really felt like there's some scheduling conflicts again. That bothers me, because again, if you have Harrison Ford in this show, use him more. And the first 2 seasons understood that, and this season feels like it's more concerned about all these, again, supporting characters who were supporting characters in season 1 who have now become main characters, you know? And with them being main characters, the storylines aren't nearly as interesting or believable. Like, again, spoiler here in case you haven't seen Shrink in season 3, and you know you're planning to watch it but you just haven't got around to it yet. In the last episode of Shrink in season 3, Gabby, who I really liked in season 1, and I've liked less and less as the show has gone on, because they've made her a lot more hornier, by the way. Like, she's always making sex jokes, and I get it, you're an attractive person. Everybody in the show is attractive, and I'll talk about that a bit more short in this video, but my god, you know, I don't like you nearly as much, because it feels like with that character, sex is always on her mind. Nothing against the actress who plays, I forgot the name of the actress off the top of my head right now, but that character, yeah, don't love her anymore. And I used to really like her as a supporting character in season 1. She was a great supporting character, not so much a great main character. But anyway, in the last episode of season 3, she finds out that her boyfriend is going to propose. She finds a ring in her boyfriend's work drawer. And I'm like, what, you couldn't hide the ring anywhere else? Anyway, it's things like that where I'm like, is this really what people would do? And the way these characters act around each other, like I said already, they're always making sex jokes, and they're all very attractive as well. Is this really the case in California? The show is set in California, and I've never been to California myself, so I can't comment. But this is why I'm asking, you know, is everybody attractive? Is everybody this attractive in California, like down this show? It feels like everybody has to be good looking. It doesn't feel like we can ever have somebody who, I don't know, actually looks not like a movie star or not like a TV star from Hollywood in this show. Everybody's way too good looking, and there's still too many sex jokes. That's one of my problems with season 2 of Shrinking. Season 1 had sex jokes in there, but not nearly as much as season 2, and they've toned down the sex jokes in the season, but there's still a lot, and every character's being told they're attractive, you're attractive, you are really good looking, or you know what, you're sexy and I'd love to go to bed with you. That's what it feels like every character is saying in this season of Shrinking. Like, whenever Harrison Ford's character's wife is on screen, and I really like her, I've seen her in other TV shows in the past, but whenever she's on screen, it feels like everybody can't keep it in their pants. They're always making jokes about how attractive she is, and, you know, again, she's an attractive woman, I'm not saying she isn't, but we've already made the joke. We made it 5 jokes ago about how attractive she is. Let's move along from it. Ugh, it's just really the way people talk in California. Can people really not keep it in their pants? Because it feels like all the time the characters are horny in this show. And on top of that, the show, like I said already, kind of already feels like it's forgotten what it was originally about. All this stuff about shrinking, the name of the show, all this stuff about therapy, isn't really focused on in the 3rd season nearly as much as it could be. This last season, which isn't the last season by the way, but this latest season of Shrinking, it feels like all this stuff about the messages to do with grief and the messages to do with moving on are just kind of inserted in there at the end of each episode, but they don't feel earned. And the messages are well done. I'm not saying that the messages aren't, but make them feel more earned. Actually make the episode feel like it's focusing on that instead of just putting it in at the end, you know? And there's there's so much to Shrinking now, and it feels like the potential is there, but there's too much going on. There are too many main storylines, and the comedy isn't working nearly as well for me either, because it always feels like it's cushioning. You know what I mean? It feels like it's being the cushion to all this sort of dark stuff going on. Like, whenever you get something that's dark in this third season of Shrinking, at the end of a scene when something dark happens, there has to be a moment of comedy. Or about a minute later after something dark happens, there have to be something to do with comedy. We have to make them laugh straight away, which isn't always the case. I've seen this in other sitcoms in the past, whether it's British sitcoms or whether it's American sitcoms, where you do something dark and you can sit in that moment. The Office did that. Both versions of The Office, the US version of The Office and the UK version of The Office, personally, the superior version of The Office in my opinion. You know, both versions of The Office, they had dark things happen to them in both of those shows, and they would sit in the dark moments, and it would be far more interesting. And you'd think that with the nature of the show, particularly after season 1, that it would be that they would sit in the dark moments a lot more, but they don't enough. And it feels like it's always, the dark stuff is always being cushioned by comedy that doesn't really feel like it works, and is just put in there for the sake of being in there. And I didn't really enjoy watching season 3 nearly as much as I hoped I would. It's still got some good parts to it, which is why I watched season 3 the whole way through. Honestly, if I didn't like season 3, I wouldn't have watched it. I'm not one of those people. I don't hate to watch things. I don't understand the point of that. So there was enough in there in season 3 in order to make me carry on watching it, you know? I do think Harrison Ford's storyline is interesting. Just focus on it a bit more. And I am still invested in the characters, in the core group of characters who are main characters from season 1. I'm still invested in Jason Segel's character. I'm still invested in his daughter's character. I'm still invested in some other characters that, again, have been there since season 1. And I still enjoy parts of the show which surprised me. For instance, Michael J. Fox, Marty McFly himself, he makes cameos in this third season. Whenever he shows up, I'm like, it's Michael J. Fox, and he's used really well. And, he's also used really well because Harrison Ford's character has Parkinson's in this show, and in real life, if you don't know already, Michael J. Fox has Parkinson's himself, and he's had it for a long time. He's been very open about it, and so whenever he puts on the show, not only does it feel right, but it works with the narrative, and it's funny. Michael J. Fox is still funny, and this show proves that. I wish they used Michael J. Fox more, although I can understand why they didn't. But yeah, I still love when he pops up in this season. I felt that was a great addition, and again, there was enough in there to make me keep watching. I will say, I still laughed. There was a part of every episode of this season of Shrinking where, there was at least one part of every episode of this season of Shrinking where I laughed. But I wanted to be laughing all the time. And all these people online, on the internet, calling this one of the best sitcoms on TV. And I'm like, is it though? I don't even think it's the best sitcom that stars Brett Goldstein on TV right now. Brett Goldstein is in Ted Lasso, and apparently Ted Lasso is coming back in August of this year. And I much prefer Ted Lasso. The thing about Ted Lasso, that is funny, and it's got a lot of heartbreaking stuff in it, and it provides more of an emotional gut punch than Shrinking does, which is saying a lot because of the nature of this show. But Shrinking does not give me that emotional gut punch. Not really. The last episode did a bit, I'll give it that, but okay, the last episode did quite a lot, actually. I liked the last episode. That did provide an emotional gut punch. So did the first episode of season 3. But the rest of the episodes kind of felt like, again, they forgot what the show originally was. And I really liked season 1, which is why I'm kind of infuriated by what the show has become. And I'll be honest, I am not that interested in watching season 4. I might give it a go when it comes out, but it feels like they're writing Harrison Ford out of the show. And I know that's not the case. I know the creators have come out and said Harrison Ford will be in season 4, but I'm a bit like, is he going to be in it that much though? Or is he going to be cameoing? You know what I mean? It's just going to be a guest star that keeps popping up. And I don't like that anymore. Harrison Ford was by far and away the best part of the show in season 1. Jason Segel was great as well. You know, I've liked Jason Segel ever since How I Met Your Mother. I thought it was the best part of How I Met Your Mother. But I actually thought it was better in this show in season 1. However, I feel like the show is too soft now. It's too mushy. It's not dark enough anymore. It's too American. You know? It feels like it's really appealing to American audiences now, and personally, I would love to see the British version of the show because it would be darker and the comedy wouldn't be as in your face and it wouldn't feel as out of place at times, you know, like it sometimes does in the show, because you get a dark moment that always feels like it's cushioned by the comedy, but you wouldn't necessarily get that in the British version. You might, but you probably wouldn't, because of the nature of British comedy. British comedy is very different than American comedy, and that's one of the reasons I think the UK version of The Office is better, because it's darker and it's more realistic than the American version. And that's why I'd be more interested to watch the American version. That's why I'd be more interested to watch the British version of Shrinking, because the chances are it would be darker, more believable, and you know what? It would provide me with more of an emotional punch, which this show doesn't anymore. Again, I still enjoyed season 3. I kept watching it, so at least there was something that kept me watching it, you know? But I think the thing that kept me watching was I want to see more of Harrison Ford. In each episode, after season 1 of season 3, I would look forward to seeing more of Harrison Ford. But then he wasn't in it nearly enough, you know? And I just feel that's wasting him. You get Harrison Ford in your show. He's great at comedy. He's hilarious. Use that more. And yet all the supporting characters from season 1 are now main characters and are not nearly as funny as Harrison Ford, not nearly as interesting as Harrison Ford in this show, and are all kind of a bit annoying after a while, and all a little too sexually driven as well. It's and too mushy, you know? The whole show now, just, again, it's forgotten what it, at least to me, it's forgotten what it set out to be. That's what it feels like. But there is still stuff to like, particularly cameos by Michael J. Fox. And yeah, it was still funny. I laughed in watching season 3 of Shrinking. I wish I laughed more, but I did laugh. And there were some, from being kind, some heartbreaking moments in there. But all these people calling it one of the best TV shows on TV right now, I just don't get it. I don't even think it's the best comedy on TV right now. I think Ted Lasso was better. Heck, I started to watch 2026, the BBC show, last night. I think that was funnier than any of the episodes of Shrinking season 3. So, you know, there's that. But maybe it's just me. Maybe this is my British sensibilities getting in the way. Season 1 had a lot of meat to it. Season 3 doesn't. It's just, there's a lot going on. It's all soft. It's all a bit too happy. And it's all a bit mushy as well, when it could be so much better, particularly if Harrison Ford was in it a lot more. And so all in all, I'm going to say that Shrinking as a whole, I'm going to say that all 3 seasons of Shrinking, I'm going to say that they're 6 out of 10. I felt kind of weird there, giving all 3 seasons of Shrinking a rating, actually, because I've only really been talking about season 3 in this review today. But season 1, I would give an 8 out of 10. Season 1, I did think was really good. Season 2, 7 out of 10, and then season 3, a 6 out of 10. So yeah, I think the show as a whole has decreased in quality. But that's just me. Again, if you love it, that's great. I don't want to take that away from you at all. I really don't. You know, there's loads of comedies that I watch which people don't get. People don't get the UK version of The Office. I think it's genius. People don't get extras. I think that's genius. People don't get, people don't get Frasier. And, I think that's brilliant. And I don't get a lot of these American sitcoms which people absolutely love. Shrinking being an example. So this is just me at the end of the day. And comedy is all subjective. If you absolutely love this show, if you think it's hilarious, then good for you. I'm super jealous. And I did think season 1 was hilarious because it had Jason Segel and Harrison Ford at the forefront of every episode. But this season does not. And it needed to more, you know? And I don't find it believable anymore. It's too mushy, it's too soft, it's too nice, it's too happy, and it needs to be dark again. Do something in the next season that throws a curveball with everything going on, because at the moment, if it's just more of people telling each other how good looking they are, how good they are, and telling each other that they're gonna be alright in life, then I don't care anymore. I've seen enough of it with this season. I enjoyed this third season of Shrinking, but it did bring my liking of the show down as a whole. Still, season 1 was great, wasn't it? Season 1 was so good. Season 3, in my opinion, has lost its way. Still, it was okay to watch, so there's that. And so, all in all, as already said, and as I'm going to say once more in today's video, Shrinking seasons 1 through to 3 are a 6 out of 10 for me. Anyway guys, that's it for today's video. If you have seen Shrinking, if you've seen any of Shrinking, please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching the video today, and if you haven't yet, please click down below and like and subscribe on this video. I look forward to many more videos like this coming very, very soon on this channel. As what he said, thank you for watching the video today, and I will, we got there in the end, I'll see you guys again soon, but bye for now, bye.